After a series of bizarre tweets from the show's star early this morning. They included a racist remark about Valerie Jarrett, top advisor to former President Obama. Roseanne Barr apologized profusely after she was severely criticized, but that wasn't enough to save her show. Jarrett responded on MSNBC tonight.
I think we have to turn it into a teaching moment. I'm fine. I'm worried about all the people out there who don't have a circle of friends and followers who come right to their defense. The person who's walking down the street minding their own business and they see somebody cling to their purse or want to cross the street.
For reaction, we're joined by Alveda King, former member of the Georgia House of Representatives and the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, and Howie Kurtz, the host of Media Buzz here on Fox News. I want to start with you, Alveda, here, because this was a breakneck speed cancellation of the most popular network television show of the season. A huge smash hit. She apologized, but it was the comments in the eyes of a lot of people were pretty inexcusable, to say the least.
Well, you know, this actually, Laura, is a teachable moment. I'm 67 years old, and I do use social media, but I try to stop and maybe pray or think or consider what I'm about to tweet or put on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or any of those, because people will hear that or see that or read that. And as you say, Roseanne's remarks moved like lightning. They just moved everywhere. And then ABC responded, and I believe appropriately, in saying, hey, we just have to chop this show. We have to stop this. There has to be a message that this is not what we're about. So I believe that it is a teachable moment, unfortunately, for Roseanne herself. You know, because I guess there are a lot of people.
I have a question about this, though. And Howard, there seems to be no possibility of redemption in certain cases. I mean, you have redemption for Joy Behar. Let's not remind everyone what she said not so long ago.
Yeah.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's different.
That's different. That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct.
And then Andrea Mitchell posed this very odd question today to Joy Reid. Let's watch.
What do you have to do on social media to get fired from a top-rated show on an American broadcast network?
It's a little, given Joy Reid's past comments about homosexuals and so forth. It was kind of an ironic question there.
Right. I mean, a lot of commentators and comedians have survived these offensive comments when they have apologized. Difference here, I think, is that Roseanne Barr touched the third rail of race, and it's very hard to come back from that. I mean, this was a spectacular self-immolation by Roseanne, who woke up this morning with the most popular show within nanoseconds, it seemed, ABC pulling the plug, which is going to cost ABC a lot of money, by the way. And Roseanne should have been on top of the world. Instead, she's continued to spew anger on Twitter.
Alveda, you see the double standard, however. Christians are mocked and ridiculed. Entire classes of people ridiculed. Yet someone issues an apology, maybe makes a phone call, and career preserved.
In America right now, the issue of race has reached fever pitch, boiling point. We've not gotten the message yet from my uncle, for example, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., we must learn to live together as brothers, and I'll add as sisters, or perish together as fools. We're not understanding that we are one race, one human race. And so we are still at these race wars and battling. And so it's just an absolute terrible thing to take a racial slur and kind of throw it out there like that, and I understand that. However, I believe that we all as human beings, red-blooded human beings, our skin color really doesn't define us. It's our character that does. We're not colorblind. We could see ethnicity, and we should. Because if we ignore or say we can't see skin color, then we can't see the oppression and the wrongdoing that happens, even down to the little babies in the womb, all the way to old people. Right. And so fighting over skin color really is a problem, but that's where we are right now. And that's why I say it's a teachable moment. The racism really does have to go, and we have to begin to regard and respect each other as human beings.
Well, here. Howie, did ABC not know, though, what they were getting with Roseanne? I mean, Ben Sherwood's comment, the New York Times, he said you can't control Roseanne. Let's get Howie in on this. Many of who have tried have failed. She's the one and only. I mean,
ABC knew exactly what it was getting with Roseanne. She has been spreading conspiracy theories from about 9/11 to Nazis for many years. There was a gamble here that maybe she would zip her lip, and she did create a funny show, a pro-Trump show that touched a lot of people in the country. But ABC cannot claim to be blindsided. And there's one more point here, and that is, I was just waiting. I was counting down. CNN's Don Lemon. Okay, Roseanne and President Trump are trafficking.
Oh, yeah, they're putting it all together.
MSNBC bringing it in. Even Valerie Jarrett was taking the high road, and she was sort of blindsided here, but she took a swipe at the president. Although he liked Roseanne, and he called Roseanne after the successful review, this has nothing to do with Donald Trump. The mainstream media have to turn every negative controversy into a Trump story.
Yeah, Alveda, what do you think of tying this? Yeah, hold on, Alveda. What do you think about tying this to Donald Trump, which is what people are doing in tweets? You know, the guy from Scandal, actor Joshua Malina, said ABC is greater than GOP. Others tweeting similar things, that Donald Trump created this atmosphere for someone like a Roseanne to tweet that, thinking she probably could get away with it.
Well, I believe Roseanne, perhaps, as I say, teachable moment, just thought she could say or do whatever she thought at any time.
But did Donald Trump create the atmosphere, Alveda? That's what the left is saying.
No, he did not. No, he did not. I voted for Donald Trump. I'm not a racist. There are many of us who support the president today, and we're not racist. So to tie this one particular act from one particular person and say that it's Donald Trump's president, Donald Trump's fault, that's just not true. And I think that we should not do that.
Howie, will someone else pick up the show?
I think it's very hard to come back from this kind of radioactive controversy.
So no one will pick up this.
I don't think
this
any
most popular show of the year. No one will pick it up. Any of the cast of characters, they're all out of jobs, right?
Well, some of the people were saying they were leaving, but yeah, that's the sad thing here is that with this act, with this self-destructive act, all the writers and tape editors and people who will not be so easy for them to find jobs, they all
it's a shame.
They all get screwed too.
Yeah, it's a shame because I only saw like 1 minute of it, but I mean, people really like the show. But it's a television show. Life will go on. Thank you so much, both of you.
And so we praise it as this great conservative program and this trailblazing thing. When Roseanne is the token free thinker, she's the token open-minded person, and then she's billed as a crazy person. She's billed as a substance abuser. She's billed as a person with multiple personalities. And so we hail mainstream media and say, thank you so much for giving us a voice in mainstream news and mainstream sitcoms. That's right, sitcoms. Let us tune in to your fraud and let us buy into it and let us feel like we've got a seat at the table when all you're doing is laughing at us and suckering us. Here's what you need to know about Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr is extremely eccentric. Roseanne Barr was basically picked by the corporate media who have imploding ratings to come on television and launch a conservative quasi reboot. But as soon as the show launched, it began to just be a sucker punch or a sucker play where they lured people back into the top-rated show to get viewers back into ABC, and then they baited and switched it from the episodes I watched, and it had more social justice warrior stuff. It had more pro-open border Islamic crap than anything you can imagine. So we praise it as this great conservative program and this trailblazing thing. When Roseanne is the token free thinker, she's the token open-minded person, and then she's billed as a crazy person. She's billed as a substance abuser. She's billed as a person with multiple personalities. And so we hail mainstream media and say, thank you so much for giving us a voice in mainstream news and mainstream sitcoms. That's right, sitcoms. Let us tune in to your fraud and let us buy into it and let us feel like we've got a seat at the table when all you're doing is laughing at us and suckering us. And then when Roseanne gets a little bit off the reservation, you ignore it. But as soon as the ratings start to plunge from record ratings in the last 4 or 5 years for any other show out there to only a decent show with a trajectory showing it going straight down, Well, then the controversy you'd been pushing her to engage in, well, the last stage of the setup was brought in, and ABC bragged to CNN in an article I read this morning that they were already looking at canceling the show because of her activities, and that they were proud of how quick they took action and how they flushed her so quickly, because they're not going to put up with hate. They're going to virtue signal, just like major Fortune 100 companies like Starbucks. Starbucks is admittedly being funded by the Open Society Foundation and George Soros. That's the main funder of the PR group, in their own press release, along with the Ford Foundation, running the whole, oh, we're racist, we're going to close our doors for a few days to be a re-education camp. And then we're going to ask every white patron that comes in, are you a racist? Would you virtue signal today and tell a black person you're sorry? Will you take on some guilt? This is being pushed as divide and conquer from the people up on the top of the pyramid to control those at the bottom of the pyramid. It's simple. It's in the WikiLeaks. It's called social engineering. It's called divide and conquer. It's called balkanization. Now, the truth about Roseanne Barr was, as soon as she made the statement, she apologized. Because in the past, they would let her apologize for publicity, but this time, they were ready to get rid of her. Yeah, there it is, if you're watching on TV. The Perception Institute. Research, representation, reality. That means controlling reality. And who was one of their main funders? Ford Foundation and the Open Society Foundation. That's all divide and conquer, race war garbage. And so are the other organizations. Why are the ultra-rich? Why are the super blue bloods that only marry other white people, who only allow Oprah Winfrey into their eugenics meetings that are even in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times? Remember 6 years ago? The world's richest meet in secret to establish a world government for depopulation. Just type in the world's richest meet in New York to discuss depopulation. ABC News, London Guardian, you name it. 6 years ago, they tried to cut.
Charlie, I thought that ABC had no alternative. When you put up that kind of stuff, I think you pretty much got to remove the star and the show from the airwaves. Why were you surprised at the cancellation?
Well, look, I mean, I agree. The tweets were completely and totally detestable. However, with that being said, I do think there's a double standard that exists. You know, look at Joyanne Reid from MSNBC, who published repeated bigoted and intolerant writings towards the LGBT community for years, lied about it, tried to cover it up, had help from NBC executives to try to cover it up, and then tried to play the victim, comes out with a fake apology, then is heralded as some sort of hero for stepping up. So look, in no way am I saying that what Roseanne said is, you know, acceptable by any means, but there is a double standard that exists there. If you are even a smidgen to the right and you say something that you regret, apologies do not matter. You will lose your livelihood, you'll lose your show, and everything that you're associated with. So it's unfortunate, and ABC did have no choice. And look, Roseanne should not have tweeted that. It was horribly racist for her to do so. However, there is a double standard that exists, because if she was a liberal, I guarantee they would have given her a second chance. Yeah. They would have said she was joking, so on and so forth.
But I got to say, Robert Iger, chief of Disney, he did the right thing. I mean, he canceled the most popular comedy show in America today.
Well, Ann Coulter, of course, the best-selling author. Get her book, In Trump We Trust. Also concerned about the border, the wall. Get her book, Adios America. And follow her on Twitter, AnnCoulter.com, of course. Ann Coulter, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you, Mark Simone?
Very good. Hey, that Roseanne tweet, would you say that might be the most expensive tweet ever in history? Hundreds of millions of dollars wiped out. And
wow, you're right. That's a very good point. Well, first I want to say I condemn the tweet in the harshest terms. Most of all, I condemn this forced demand that we all condemn something. Obviously, Disney just wanted to get rid of Roseanne. And please don't ever, ever, ever say, oh, the media, Hollywood, they're just selling what people want. That's all they care about, the bottom line. Through my entire life, that has never, ever, ever been true. Yeah. They ban people and they put people on to push an ideological agenda, and they don't care that this is, I mean, I was kind of surprised that this is like the first hit network show. I've never seen it. I never saw the original. I never saw this one. I have nothing to do with Roseanne. But This is such a BS excuse. Yes, she shouldn't have sent the tweet. Have you seen her other tweets? Oh, my gosh. I mean, she's apparently a very funny and very popular comedian with these record-breaking
number one show on television. Yeah.
And like nothing, like things we haven't seen for 20 years now that there are 300 cable stations. I mean, friends of mine who have been in TV for a long time, they're just sitting back with their jaws open. It used to be that, you know, and not that long ago, pre-internet, pre-800 TV channels, a few big shows, you know, Friends, Saturday Night Live, that sort of thing. A third of the country would be watching. A third of the country would be watching Seinfeld. Today, you know, they're celebrating if they can get 2 million people to watch. She had, 20 million viewers? Disney doesn't care. They wanted to get rid of her, and they wanted to blame it on Trump. This is another Charlottesville scam where Trump said that, and I am 100% sure there were people who did, support the history of having Confederate monuments up, didn't want them torn down, had never heard of Richard Spencer, but suddenly that gets turned into saying Nazis are good people. They just lie. And I don't know. I'm creeped out by the insistence that we all say what I said. You can't get me on that, Mark Simone. I condemn this tweet. You know, she used to be a left-wing conspiracy theorist. I mean, I think the only consistent thread, which I admit I admire, is her hatred for smug elites. But she used to be, you know, total commie conspiracy theorist. The Twitter feed is not inconsistent with what she's been doing or saying, you know, off camera for a long time. This is all about it being a show that was supposed to appeal to Trump voters.
Yeah, I assume most ABC executives in the New York Times and MSNBC, when they watched Roseanne, they just didn't get the show. They've never seen people like that, who talk like that, dress like that, out in the middle of the heartland. They've never seen people like that. It was like they were watching people from another planet.
Well, also, remember there was, you know, like an announcement a week ago that next season it'll be less political. I totally agree with you. It is a cultural thing, of course. But as long as it was, because it was the same sort of culture, I gather, in the last version of this show. But the last version of the show, it was a liberal Democrat, working class white family. This